You heard me. Start packing. That's what Ethan, my uncle's golden boy, said at 1:03 a.m., standing in my hallway with mud on his boots, 5 strangers behind him, and a smirk I wanted to erase from the planet.
Hi.
My name is Ivy Calder. I'm 29, and until last night, I lived in the apartment my grandfather left to be decided in his will. I've been the quiet one, the obedient one, the one who never made waves. And, apparently, the one they thought they could steamroll. Ethan was holding up a printed email. Grandpa told me this place is mine. He just hasn't had time to change the documents. But he said it. That's enough. My grandfather, who was in the hospital with tubes down his throat, couldn't speak. Literally. But that didn't stop Ethan from weaponizing his name like a bulldozer. I looked him straight in the eyes and said nothing. No fight. No tears. No begging. I stepped back, went into my room, locked the door, and quietly opened my laptop. Because I'd been preparing for this moment for weeks. And what they didn't know was that I'd already made one phone call that changed everything. The next morning, they never even made it to breakfast. While Ethan's moving crew snored on my living room floor, I was in my room sipping cold tea and waiting for dawn. 3 weeks ago, I found something curious in Grandpa's study. A locked drawer with legal documents my uncle never knew about. I had quietly made copies and taken them to a lawyer. What Ethan didn't know could bury him. Because 3 months before Grandpa's stroke, he did update the will. And the apartment? It was mine. Legally. Irrevocably. But my uncle's side of the family never bothered to read the final amendment. They ran on ego and assumption. They thought if they stomped in loud enough, I'd fold.
I didn't.
At 6:45 a.m., I walked out of my room. Ethan was still asleep on the couch, arms spread like he owned the air. I gently tapped his shoulder.
Morning.
You might want to get up. The building manager will be here in 10 minutes. And you'll want to be dressed before the police arrive. He blinked. Police? I handed him a copy of the updated deed with my name on it, signed, notarized, and filed. Then I opened the front door. And there they were. 2 officers. And the manager holding the master key. Good morning, Miss Calder. Ready? I nodded. Very. The officers walked in with calm authority, surveying the boxes and Ethan's half-packed ego strewn across my floor. Ethan jumped to his feet. Wait. There must be a mistake. Grandpa promised. Notarized deed overrides bedtime promises, I said coolly, handing them my copy again. Officer Hughes glanced at it, then nodded to his partner. Sir, you're being asked to vacate the premises immediately. You're trespassing. Ethan's face twisted. You can't do this to family. This is abuse. The building manager snorted. Tell that to the neighbors you kept awake last night hauling furniture into someone else's home. I watched as the officers instructed the movers to start removing every box they had brought in. One of them dropped a lamp. I didn't flinch. I had already photographed everything they touched the night before. When Ethan tried to argue again, I held up my phone and hit play, a voice memo of him at 1:12 a.m. declaring, I don't care what the paperwork says. My dad said it's mine. The silence that followed was delicious. By 9 a.m., Ethan and his crew were back in the moving truck, this time with less arrogance and no keys. But I wasn't done yet, because someone else had helped him plan this. And she was next. As the moving truck pulled away, I stood on the balcony sipping coffee, watching Ethan's bruised ego disappear down the street. I thought I'd feel closure. I didn't, because the betrayal ran deeper. My phone buzzed. It was a message I had screenshotted the night before, still open in my gallery. Aunt Maya, just make sure she's not home. Your dad said the spare key is still under the planter. That's when it hit me. This wasn't just Ethan's stunt. My aunt, Maya, my late mother's own sister, had orchestrated it. She had always been sly, always smiling too wide when I talked about the apartment I inherited after Mom's passing. I texted her. Thanks for helping Ethan break in. I'll let my lawyer know. Oh, and check the news later. She replied instantly. What are you talking about? I had nothing to do with it. Then deleted the message. Too late. because I'd already forwarded it to the police, my lawyer, and the condo board. And as I reached into the envelope on my table, I pulled out a letter I hadn't told anyone about. My mom's posthumous addendum, one that named Maya specifically, and revoked her access to everything, unless I chose to grant it. I didn't, but I did something far better. 3 days later, I mailed out invitations. They looked elegant, like wedding invites. Cream paper, gold foil lettering, soft ribbon. The front said, "Private estate auction, by exclusive invitation only." The location? My mother's old gallery. The one my family always dismissed as a waste of rent. Inside, I had displayed everything Ethan and Aunt Maya had hoped to quietly claim for themselves: antiques, artwork, vintage jewelry, even the baby grand piano my grandfather once begged me to give to Ethan since he plays. Everything was cataloged, priced, and insured. That night, I wore black velvet and pearls. My mother's portrait stood tall at the entrance. I greeted every guest with a glass of champagne and a knowing smile. Right on cue, Ethan arrived with my aunt, eyes wide in disbelief. "This is insane," he growled. "You're selling the family's legacy?" Maya snapped. I tilted my head.
No.
"I'm selling my legacy. You two just assumed it was yours." He lunged toward a glass case. "That's Grandpa's watch." "Correct," I said, which he gave to me in writing. "See the tag? It's already got 5 bidders." I turned my back to them as a woman in pearls raised her paddle. "Sold." And Ethan's jaw nearly hit the floor. By the next morning, everything was gone. The gallery was spotless, silent. Every heirloom they once salivated over was now in the hands of strangers, collectors, historians, a few museum curators who couldn't believe the treasures up for grabs. Ethan showed up in a frenzy, pounding on the locked doors of the gallery. "You had no right," he screamed through the glass. A security guard calmly stepped between us. I didn't flinch. "You were happy to take everything when you thought I had no idea what it was worth," I said quietly, stepping outside. "Now that it's gone, you're grieving like you actually earned any of it." Maya stomped forward, her voice sharp. "We're family. You humiliated us in front of everyone." "No," I corrected her. "You humiliated yourselves when you tried to steal from me." That same day, I called the locksmith. The family apartment, the one Ethan insisted was rightfully his, had a new code, new locks, and a security camera system with live alerts to my phone. And when he tried to use the old key that night, the alarm screamed. Police arrived in 6 minutes. He spent the night in a holding cell. And for the first time in years, I slept with my phone on silent. I hosted the family for brunch the following weekend. Not out of kindness, but out of precision. Everyone showed up. My parents, Ethan, Maya, uncles, aunts, all sat awkwardly around the long glass table. They were unusually quiet, waiting for me to explode or gloat. But I didn't. Instead, I passed around personalized envelopes. One by one, they opened them, each containing a notarized document. Non-disclosure agreements? Maya snapped. "What is this?" I folded my hands calmly. "These bind you from ever discussing the gallery, the apartment, the estate, any of it, to the public, to media, or online. In exchange, I've cleared your debts. But if any of you violate it, I take back everything I gave." My mother looked up, tears in her eyes. "You think this is necessary?" I gave her a long look. "You thought giving away my inheritance without asking was okay." They all signed. When brunch was over, I walked them out one by one. No hugs. No "I love you." Just a firm nod. Ethan lingered at the door. "So that's it? No forgiveness." I met his eyes. Forgiveness is earned, not assumed. And as the door shut behind him, he realized he'd never be part of my life again. The press release hit Monday morning. Local artist donates $2 million to fund young creators from underprivileged homes. The article featured a photo of me, standing in front of my new nonprofit gallery. The same gallery I built using the fortune my family tried to steal. The same gallery that sat in the building they once mocked as too old, too small. That day, I received over 300 messages. From strangers. From artists. From kids who saw hope because of what I'd built. But not one message came from my family. And I preferred it that way. Weeks later, I passed by my parent house. The lawn was unkempt. The mailbox overflowing. I heard yelling inside. Ethan had moved back in. The business was gone. The loans I'd paid off. Replaced by worse ones. Maya was suing him. It was crumbling.
Slowly.
Quietly. And I didn't need to lift a finger. I drove past without stopping. My phone buzzed. A thank you message from one of the girls now living in the apartment I donated to single mothers. I smiled. They gave away my inheritance. I built an empire